Hi, my love, and welcome to Yes to Life podcast, a podcast about soulful living and sacred feminine embodiment. It is a podcast about following our dreams, open up to our full potential, and saying yes to life. It is also a podcast about remembering the sacredness of the female body and the feminine essence. My name is Helena. I'm a mother of 6 beautiful children and a sacred, sensual, and feminine embodiment guide. I help women in all stages of their lives to love, adore, and understand their female bodies, to celebrate their feminine essence, and to awakening their inner goddess. I'm the founder of Blissful Feminine Flow and the creatrix of programs like Yoni Flowering, Womb Bliss, Sacred Bleeding, Blissful Mama, Pleasure Queen, and Sacred Feminine Body Love. I have always been very open and sensitive and have a feeling that more is possible. Beside my deep love and curiosity for the female body and the feminine essence, which I got mostly from my own pregnancy, birth, and motherhood, I am also very fascinated about people who have dared to walk their own path and follow their dreams and are showing us that more is possible. I can see the power of us coming together and have these deep conversations about the things that we care about. I can also see the gift of listening to these deep conversations. That's why I started this podcast. If this touches something deep within you, please stay tuned and let's get started with today's episode. So, welcome to another episode of Yes Life podcast. And today I'm here with a guest who always makes me smile. Absolutely gorgeous woman. Her name is Chloe. She is wildly passionate about the menstruation cycle. She's a full spectrum fertility awareness educator. She also loves vulva gazing, making menstruation blood masks, and takes photos of cervixes. She caught my attention from the very first time I saw her, and she always makes me smile. She's such a wellspring of wisdom, and you can also feel the passion she feels for what she's doing. So I just welcome you to listen to our conversation. So, welcome to another episode of Yes to Life podcast. And today I'm here with a beautiful guest, Chloe, an amazing woman who I just want to listen to more and more, and I can go on for hours. And every time I think of her, I start smiling. She always makes me smile. Such a wellspring of wisdom, and I'm so great to have her here. Welcome, Chloe.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay! So, for those who don't know anything about you, can you please introduce yourself a little bit, who you are and what you do?
I am Chloe Skerlak, and I am crazy about the menstrual cycle. So I talk about the menstrual cycle all day long, and I teach people how to understand their menstrual cycle better. And that looks like in a fertility awareness practice. So teaching people how to understand the changes in their signs of fertility in cervical mucus, basal body temperature, cervical position. And that's probably the pillar to everything I do. And then I have a lot of fun offshoots to that. Like I'm the founder of the Cervix Portrait Party, where we take a camera and a speculum and we actually gaze upon and take photos of our own cervixes. I believe that body literacy and menstrual cycle education is for everyone at every age. So I teach as young as 7 years old about their bodies, and I help people transition out of perimenopause. So yeah, if it has something to do with the menstrual cycle, then I'm probably talking about it.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. You hear all the listeners. She's amazing. Yes. So how do you come into this world?
Yeah, great question. I always say that I started for birth control, but I stayed for body literacy. You know, it's one of those things where we teach, but we need it ourselves. And I was in my early 20s looking for a hormone-free contraception. I had been on the hormonal birth control for less than a year, and my hair was falling out. My skin was spotted with terrible acne I had never experienced before. My moods were off the charts. I couldn't even last a year. And I knew like this is not okay. And I also understood that it was from my hormonal birth control, which was really a gift because I know many people who will spend years, even decades, on hormonal birth control, not knowing that the side effects that they're experiencing are from taking the pill or other hormonal contraception every single day. So I quit the pill and felt almost better immediately, but then was left with the challenge of how am I going to prevent pregnancy without hormonal birth control? And searching for a contraception, I realized it's really just asking yourself, how do you like your hormones? You want them in a pill, in a patch, an IUD? And I thought there has to be another way. Like we didn't always have access to all of these synthetic Frankenstein hormones to literally shut down your endocrine system, literally shut down the communication from your ovaries and your brain to prevent you from getting pregnant. So what is it? And that's when I discovered fertility awareness. And I discovered that we're not fertile every single day, that you can't get pregnant every single day. It's actually only 6 days of your cycle that you are biologically capable of getting pregnant. So learn to understand those changes in your menstrual cycle and learn to know when you're fertile and when you're not. And then according to your intentions, whether it's to avoid pregnancy, you keep sperm out of your body on the days that you're fertile. If your intention is to achieve pregnancy, you want to get sperm in your body on the days that you're fertile. And that's where it started. It started with this desire to want to avoid pregnancy without hormonal contraception. But that was 12 years ago. And now I've been teaching for 7, and I just have such an appreciation and so much to celebrate and talk about the menstrual cycle. The contraceptive aspect of it is such a small piece of this beautiful photo that we get to see through our whole cycle. I mean, when you start to realize that you're 4 different people in one, right? I change. That's what's so special about being a woman who has a menstrual cycle, is that I'm not the same every day. And so I'm going to be a different person through my menstrual phase, my follicular phase, my ovulatory, and my luteal phase. So not only can I prevent pregnancy or achieve pregnancy if that's what I desire, but I understand myself better, which helps me to like show myself and also be treated the way I want to be treated throughout my cycle. And because our cycle is the 5th vital sign, by paying attention to your menstrual cycle and the changes and the different variations of your normal, you can understand your health by also understanding your menstrual cycle. So these are the things that I get really excited about.
Yes, me too. I'm also so excited. And it's really interesting how so many young girls are introduced to this birth control pills in such a young age. And then they don't even had learned to know themselves. I know many women who come to me and explain how they don't know themselves. And when they start to look into it, they say, I have never done, because I started that journey with the pills so early. And as you said, it cut off the, what did you say, the connection with the ovaries and the brain? Yes.
So there's a misconception that hormonal contraception regulates our cycles, regulates our periods. And that's one of the reasons why so many of our young women and young girls are on hormonal birth control, because they're trying to regulate their cycle. But it doesn't regulate the cycle. It actually shuts it. Yeah. And something else that a lot of people don't know is that it can take up to 12 years for your cycles to mature once you've started. So that's menarche is the term we use for your first period. It takes several years to regulate and to find your own variation of normal. And it's part of like those transitions that aren't always easy for us, are they? But they're very initiatory, right? And it's important to like, just like, you know, the caterpillar, the cocoon, and the butterfly, we have to go through that process. And so we are literally shutting down girls' bodies in order to regulate their cycles.
Yes. And it's the whole thing that so many women are disconnecting themselves from the female body and from their feminine essence too, from the cyclical being that we are. And we miss out so much of our gifts into the world because we are such. Yeah.
I love that you said that, because so many people think that being someone in a body like ours, that our cycle is only for conceiving, it's only for getting pregnant. And yeah, it's a very important part. But the ovulation, so the event in our cycle where we release an egg, which is the main event of the cycle, the only reason why we have a period is because we ovulated and the egg didn't get fertilized. But this ovulation is our superpower.
Yes.
Is what, you know, makes and drives the hormones that affect everything from our physical health, our mental health, our creativity, the way we express ourselves in the world. So these gifts that you're referring to, right, they're driven by our ability to ovulate and these hormones that are associated with ovulation. So I love that you said that, because so many of us are disconnecting from our bodies and from our fertility in order to prevent pregnancy, not realizing that these processes of our body affect everything, not just our ability to get pregnant.
No, exactly. And I used to say that when they reconnect to the yoni or to the vagina, I say that every vagina is so unique. She's like that beautiful flower with an absolutely unique fragrance or a smell or a vibration that is rippling out into the world and creating magic just by being you. But if we shut her down and to dim her in some way, that's something that the whole world is missing. Yeah. And I want to ask you one thing, because I've heard somebody, I think it was my man who told me once, that if you take that birth control pills, your hormone doesn't work as they should, and you can choose a wrong man. And then when you quit, you suddenly see that this is not a match, because we're not drawn to the pure natural attraction thing, you know.
Yeah, they've actually proved this in studies, that we have an ability as women to smell out men that have better, more compatible genetics to us. So like a genetic compatibility. And we can smell it through their pheromones. And what they discovered is that women on hormonal birth control lose that ability.
Yes,
they lose
exactly.
to smell out their right partner. And so unfortunately, I've heard this a lot, that somebody finds their partner on hormonal birth control, they get married and then want to go off the pill because now they want to conceive, and they start looking at their partner like,
exactly.
This is, and I mean, not to say that you've chosen the wrong person, not to say that you've,
no,
it's proven in these studies that it does affect who we choose and how we feel and how we are attracted to our partners. So it is one aspect that people should consider when choosing to go on hormonal birth control.
Yes. And we are going to go into the juicy stuff soon, but I just want to address something more, because we recommend this birth controls pills so easily, but it also have some downsides to it. And I think many young girls and women think that the things that is going on in their body or in their mind or in the whole system is how it has to be, but it's maybe something that is caused by those pills. Do you want to speak a little bit about that, or just say a few things, because somebody maybe feel that, oh, I have that, maybe that's not me.
Mm-hmm. Because hormonal birth control shuts down your ovarian cycle and you stop making ovarian hormones, estrogen and progesterone, this affects your whole body. It affects your bone development. That's why osteoporosis is an increased risk for people with hormonal birth control. It affects your cardiovascular system. It affects your breast health. This is why we have an increased risk for breast cancer. It affects your skin and your hair. This is why I had really bad acne. This is why my hair fell out. It affects your gut health. This is why a lot of people have IBS and gut issues on hormonal birth control. It affects your vaginal health. This is why there's an increased risk for yeast infections and BV, and an increased risk of cervical cancer, because it affects your immune system, which affects your body's ability to fight off HPV. It actually shrinks your clitoris. It causes clitoral shrinkage. And it affects our moods and our mental health. And there was a study that just came out, I think it's been a couple of years now, that finally proves that the pill is linked to increased risk of depression. But ask anybody who's been on hormonal birth control, and they can tell you they felt a brain fog, or they felt more increased anxiety or depression, or 100% our moods are affected on hormonal birth control. Yes. And it's like you said, so many of us don't realize that these side effects, that they might be caused by hormonal birth control, a lot of us just think, oh, that's just how I am.
Yes.
How I am.
Yeah. Yes. When you stop taking them, does this continue, or do you have to do something to change it, or does it used to disappear after a while?
That's a really great question. And it's hard to say because everybody is unique.
Yes.
However, when you stop hormonal birth control and you do start welcoming regular ovulation back into your body, it's like Laura Brydon says, every ovulation is like a coin in your bank account of health. So every time you ovulate, you're receiving these health benefits. And if you are somebody, as a listener who is somebody who's been using hormonal birth control, even while you're still taking hormonal birth control, really focus on replenishing your nutrients, really focus on your sleep hygiene and taking care of yourself, because hormonal birth control is like a vacuum sucking up all of the nutrients that your body needs. So whether you're still on hormonal birth control or if you're recently off, really just focus on the things that you can do to bring your health back. And these are things that you can, do right now that you have access to today, like sleeping more, right? Getting good sleep hygiene, eating more nutrient dense foods like beef liver and eggs and vegetables and fruit and, real delicious nutrient dense food. Play and recreation, have fun, have a good time, focus on your, exercise, move your body, right? Making sure you're pooping every single day, like just the normal stuff, getting sunlight on your body, right? So just replenishing those nutrients and, doing all of those things that all of us would benefit, but especially people who've been on hormonal birth control.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Chloe. Made that clear to everybody. Yes, it's so important information, and it's a little bit you don't want to give anybody guilt or something, but this has to come out. We have to talk about it. So yes.
As a fertility awareness educator, everyone thinks that I'm anti-pill, and I'm actually not. I think that there are a lot of people who can benefit from hormonal birth control. I don't claim to know anybody's story or anybody's reasons. These are personal reasons to choose to be on hormonal birth control or not. For example, what if somebody doesn't even have sexual agency, right? They don't even have control over whether sperm gets in their body or not, right? Yes. Or what if somebody has like excruciating pain, endometriosis? Right? Hormonal birth control is going to help that person, go to work so that they can make an income and pay for rent. So I would never claim to know what's best for you and your body. I just want people to be making informed choices so that they do know when they take hormonal birth control what that actually looks like and how they can support their body.
Exactly. So beautiful said, because the information has to be there and then you do the choice of your own. Yes, but now to the fertile female body and her cycles. So I think it's so beautiful when you share about how to, what do you say, charge the cycle,
Sure.
or yes, exactly. Speak a little bit about that, how it actually looks like to go into that practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. It requires more mindfulness throughout your day. So it starts with cervical mucus. Every single time you go to the bathroom and you have toilet paper in your hand, you're just going to wipe before you go to the bathroom, wipe after you go to the bathroom, and just start wiping more consciously. And just notice how it feels when you wipe. Notice how it feels when you're walking throughout the day in your underwear between your legs. Notice if you see anything in the toilet paper or in your underwear throughout the day. So just start to get curious about the changes in your cervical mucus. And a lot of people don't even realize what, the cervical mucus is. Some people think that it's like an infection.
Yes.
Cervical mucus is a very normal, healthy, natural part of being a woman with a cycle.
Yeah.
So typically you won't see anything. Typically you might feel dry, maybe there's some dampness or some wetness, but you won't feel any lubricative sensation or see anything you can pick up. But eventually, it could be a couple of days after your period. It could be a couple of weeks after your period. Everybody is unique. But eventually you'll see a change and you'll see something that you can pick up, or you'll feel that lubricative sensation when you're wiping. Or if you're walking around and you're like, whoa, just feeling extra juicy. That's the beginning of your fertile window. So that's your cervix opening and making room and space for sperm to come live in your body for up to 5 days. Your cervix is a hotel for sperm. Sometimes it's open and sometimes it's closed. Most of the time it's closed. So when you start to see that cervical mucus or feel that cervical mucus, that's when you know the cervix is opening and you're getting closer and closer to ovulation.
Yes.
Once you ovulate, the hotel closes back up. So you typically won't see very much cervical mucus, or you won't see or feel that lubricative sensation anymore. And about 2 weeks later, you'll get a bleeding event. You'll get a period. That's the first sign.
Yes.
Second sign is your temperature. So just like we brush our teeth every single day, I take my temperature every single day. It's just a part of my routine. It's a part of my self-care habits that I do in order to gain the benefits of understanding my menstrual cycle. So every morning I wake up, my alarm goes off, and I think, yes, 10 more minutes. So I hit snooze, I take my thermometer, I put it under my arm, and I go back to sleep. My snooze button goes off, I hit it, I wake up, I have my temperature, and that has been recording my basal body temperature. So your basal body temperature is your temperature at rest. So if we were to take our temperature right now, this wouldn't be the number that we want to see. It has to be first thing in the morning after about 5 hours of nice restful sleep. So you plot a chart every single day for a whole cycle. And if you ovulated, your temperature will shift. So before ovulation, our temperatures are low. After we ovulate, the temperature shifts and stays high for the remainder of the cycle.
Yes.
This is a really fantastic sign, because for some people with longer cycles, irregular cycles, or maybe going through like a stressful time in their life, it's normal to see the cervical mucus and then it goes away. And then it comes back and then it goes away. So sometimes it's hard to confirm, did I ovulate? Because my cervix was open, the hotel was open, but just because the hotel was open doesn't guarantee that you've ovulated.
Okay.
So temperature gives us the confirmation The temperature confirms for us, okay, with this window of fertility that I'm experiencing, I've ovulated.
Yes. This is so interesting. Yes.
And then you got cervical position. So cervical position is the last sign. I find that some people either love cervical position or don't want anything to do with it.
Yes.
So those signs that I always introduce, and then everybody will decide on their own if it's something they want to try. Cervical position checking is also useful because your cervix actually changes its position, opening, and texture throughout your cycle. So for anyone who's like, what is the cervix that Chloe is talking about? If you take a nice clean finger, wash your hands, insert the longest finger into your vagina, and eventually you'll find a little grape with a dimple on it.
Yes.
That's your cervix. And so if you wash your hands, I love a good squatting position that makes my pelvis just more accessible. I can feel my cervix a lot easier. You just pick a position that you're going to stick with so that you're comparing like donuts to donuts or cervix to cervix. And you insert your finger, you feel that cervix, and you notice, where's the position? Does it feel high and hard to reach? Or is it low and easy to reach?
Yeah.
Is it tilted back towards my rectum? Or does it feel like it's pointing out directly like a bullseye?
Yeah.
And when you feel that little dimple, that's called the Oz. Not like the Wizard of Oz. This is an OS, and it's the opening. So the cervix, think of the cervix like a column. And so the Oz in the vagina opens into the vagina, and then the Oz at the top, the hole at the top, opens into the uterus. Yes. So cervix is actually the word neck in Latin. So it's the neck of the uterus. And this Oz will open when you're fertile to release cervix mucus and to allow sperm in, of course. Yes. And then the face of the cervix also changes texture. Sometimes it feels hard, like the tip of your nose, and sometimes it feels soft, like your lips. Yes. So if you are consistent and you are dedicated and you listen to these subtle changes, you will be able to discover the way that your cervix moves and dances in your body. And you can use it as an increased confirmation of where I am in my cycle. Yeah. And that's, I'm just like, I just love the cervix so much. I find that people who practice cervical position in their charting experience, a lot of them do it as like a self-care and even a spiritual experience, because your cervix is directly connected to your brain with the vagus nerve. So when you touch and massage and give attention to your cervix, you're actually telling your body through this vagus nerve, I'm safe, I'm fine, I'm okay. And so this vagus nerve, which comes from the word vagabond, wanderer, it wanders through your body. It's part of your parasympathetic nervous system, goes in your throat, your lungs, your diaphragm, your heart, your gut, and ends at the uterus and the cervix. It's part of your rest and digest. And for me, this blows my mind, because, you know, when we talk about like, oh, I felt it in my heart, or I feel it in my gut, or I feel it in my womb. It's the same nerve. It's the vagus that connects all of these. And we can't touch our heart, and we can't touch our stomach, but you can actually touch and love on your cervix. That is just amazing.
It's amazing. Yes, yes. It is amazing. And that I have birthed 6 children and have 2 miscarriages. So every time I have hear my voice is reacting and my throat, every time I have deepened my connection with the cervix. And I have been conscious in all of these births and also in the miscarriages. So it had really taken me deeper into the mystic and the power that she has. And I haven't seen her as you have, but I have felt her, and the beauty and like a mother or a feminine pure love essence with unlimited power, and also that source of wanting to birth things and to rebirth things. So it's beautiful when you talk about it, because I have only felt it in another way inside of me, but not in the way that you're speaking about it. And I also, you was talking about that somebody has you don't like it, and maybe she carries some trauma or something, that you don't want to go there, because everything that we're speaking about now, to bring our awareness back to our female bodies and start to listen to her and start to feel her again. My experience is that many women fears that, because it's so much pain and they have learned to disconnect. And it's a journey that you have to choose over and over again. And sometimes it's easier when you have someone that have walked that path, and to see the beauty of it. You can be afraid of the pain and the trauma, but you can also be afraid of the pleasure and the orgasmic bliss and the ecstasy and the love and the power and the fertility, because I feel that I have so much energy of that fertility, and I always want to birth things, and I love to be pregnant, I love to birth, I love menstruation, because it takes me back to that power and that source of life, and it's powerful. And imagine if you have been taught that that is dangerous in some way.
Yeah. The first photo I have of my cervix, my mom took for me.
Oh.
And she saw the little Oz, and she's like, "That's where the baby comes from."
Yes.
So it's just, for me also, it amazes me, without even knowing, without even having to study or know or even appreciate, your body just is so capable of all of these things.
Yes. And it makes me nearly start crying, because imagining looking at her and see her, because I teach my clients to do the yoni gazing, or gazing at your vulva, and vulva or yoni mapping, and start to see her and listen to her and get to know her. And she loves it. The yoni or the vulva loves to be seen. It's like a flower that. So do you hear me and see me now?
Yes. And you were telling me about the vulva is like a flower that wants to be seen.
Yes, exactly. And I said, I can imagine that the cervix are functioning the same way, that she also wants to be heard and seen and listened to and appreciated, and things can start to heal, and her pure potentiality can start to bloom, and yes.
Yeah, one of the things I love most about running the cervix portrait party is offering a place or a space for people to come and interact with their body and other people's bodies in a non-clinical, non-sexual way.
Yes.
I feel like there's so few opportunities for us to just be.
Yeah.
This is my body, and I want to learn about it, and I don't want to pathologize it. I don't want to, poke and prod it and try and find something wrong with it, or make it look a certain way so that it's desirable and attractive to somebody. No, it's non-clinical, non-sexual, and it brings me so much joy to offer a space where some people can come and actually experience that.
Yes. And I think the cervix, the cervix is responding to that pure awareness and pure just being there with her. I remember the last time I gave birth, it was at home in the birthing pool, and my midwife was asking if I wanted to know if I was dilated or not, or I could choose that. But I wanted to know that, so I said, yes, you can check out how it is. And she was sitting down beside me and put her hand on my leg and asked me, is it okay for me to put my fingers in now? And I said yes, but she didn't do it. She sat there and she asked me one more time, is it okay? And I said yes, but she waited. And then she asked the third time, is it okay now? And then I exhaled and said yes. And then she slowly and so kindly put her finger inside and touched the cervix. And I could feel in the contractions and in that moment, it was in full labor, how I relaxed when she had her finger there. Because there was so much love, and she was so tender and soft, and she just loved me open, and it just opened up. So she's wise. The cervix is so wise. So imagine coming into your space and feeling your love for her and your yes, love for her, and that spreads out to everybody. That was what was touching me too in your Instagram when you talked about it and how you expressed it, your love for the cervix resonated so deep.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. I literally have tears. That was just such a touching and beautiful story. She just loved you wide open. That's just amazing.
Yes, but she did.
I'm so happy to hear that we can have positive birthing experiences, right? I mean, I look forward as somebody who touches my own cervix and who has a really deep relationship with my own cervix, both with like my awareness, my physical touch, everything. I look forward to the day where I have the opportunity to give birth and check my own cervix, and
yes.
to have that communication and that experience with my cervix. And I'm so happy for both of us, because I know that a lot of people don't share that, and a lot of people have had some really traumatic and difficult experiences with birthing and with their cervix. And like you said, there's like stored memories, stored traumas there, and for some people even the idea of putting their finger in their vagina can be really overwhelming. And so it can even start with just an awareness, right? And I even have a beautiful meditation that I'll put some people through, where you just close your eyes and even just take your elevator down and just to go visit your cervix, because she's such a beautiful part of us. And I'm just so touched by your story. Thank you.
And thank you. I love this conversation. And one more thing that I started thinking about, because the cervix and our vagina and our female body is ours, and that sacred yes and that sacred no. I have heard you talked about that, and how to get to know that. Many women had lost that, and I teach them conscious penetration, whether it's with your finger or with a yoni egg or a wand or even with a partner, that sacred conscious penetration that starts to go back to our yes and our no. Can you speak a little bit about that? How you do it? And
yeah, I learned the concept of the sacred yes and sacred no through a mentor of mine, Samantha Zipporah. And something I love, she talks, as she's a huge fan, and I've learned a lot through her about consent as well. In consent, the word consent actually comes from con, meaning with, and sent comes from sentir, means to feel. So to have consent is to actually feel with, and to have consent not only with a partner, but even as consent with yourself. And that even inserting your own speculum to view your own cervix, I tell people all the time, slow down, give yourself consent. And if you feel a no, then honor that.
Yeah.
And the sacred yes and the sacred no, Samantha taught me about this with terms of, like, for example, using your menstrual cycle as a way to avoid or achieve pregnancy. And so when we are always thinking like, no baby, no baby, no baby, no baby, and that's what we're focused on, the sacred yes is when I'm practicing fertility awareness and my intention is to avoid pregnancy, what am I saying yes to? What am I saying yes to when I'm saying no to a baby? And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about of our superpowers and our gifts. And you mentioned a few times how much you love to birth and how you love not just babies, but, you know, a podcast and, you know, like you heard this like creatrix, right? So when we say no to having a baby, maybe I'm saying yes to focusing on my relationship. Maybe I'm saying yes to writing a book or building a business. And so connecting to this sacred yes is a beautiful concept I learned from Samantha Zipporah.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yeah, and I said that when she was birthed out of me too, in the pool. I just say yes, yes, yes. And in that moment, that yes landed deeper inside of me. And that's also where this Yes to Life podcast comes from. Because can we say yes to life? Can we say, what are we saying yes to? And are we listening to the deep yes? Because when she was asking me if it was okay to put her finger inside, I said yes, but my body didn't say yes. So she listened to my body, not to my words. So we have, as you said, yes.
Deal with.
Yeah.
Right?
And yeah. Learn to listen deeper. And I also think that someone else can love us more than we can love ourselves. And I have experienced this with my partner, with yoni gazing or vulva gazing, for example. His love for my yoni or vulva is even more and deeper than mine. Now I can love her, but I think it was he that opened up that door, and I just started to cry. I couldn't understand why he would like to watch her or looking at her, and now he had taught me to love her. And in the same way, I think if we have positive experience with a man who really loves us, we can start to open up and train us to be more sensitive, and he can heal our cervix that way too. When we are there and in the yes.
Yes. So beautiful.
Yes.
I bring that same kind of energy when I do the period positivity workshop, which is a workshop I run for children. So like from 7 to 14, so preteens.
Oh.
And same, whether it's our vulva, our cervix, our menstrual cycle, our blood, right? We're bombarded with messages that we're dirty, that we're gross, that we have to hide ourselves. And so when I teach the period positivity workshop, I don't even use that language. And like I start with, you know, what do you love about your body? Yeah. And I get to demonstrate. I get to show how much I love ovulation and menstruation and cervical mucus and my cervix, how amazing our bodies are, how cool they are, to again, like, so that starting from when we're very little. So instead of having, so many of us are relearning about our bodies and unlearning a lot of the taboos and a lot of the guilt and shame and dust that are put on our bodies, and we're trying to unlearn all of that, which is why I get so passionate about teaching the preteens and the girls, because I want from the very beginning, you know, I love my body, I appreciate my body is so awesome.
Oh, I'm so glad that you shared that and that you are doing that, because it's also going to spread all over the planet like these seeds. And I have 1 boy and 5 girls, and in the house now we are 3 who are bleeding, and we don't bleed at the same time. It's a little bit after each other's, but it's nearly almost somebody who bleeds in this household. And these 2 little girls, one is 4 or 3 and one is 6, and they walk around and, oh, are you bleeding, mama? Oh, beautiful. Oh, it's beautiful. And then one day, because I think it's so beautiful to watch the paper if I put it in the underwears, and then not when I bleed much, but the first day, and then when I take it up, it's like, it's so beautiful, like it's like I don't know how to say it in English, but a picture of something beautiful. Yes. And then she comes out from the toilet, and my man said, do you see what she has? That she had put the paper inside her underwears and walked around playing the big girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
that's where, you know, I have a lot of moms come to me and ask me, how can I help my daughter have a different experience than I did? And I ask them, well, how do you feel about your period? How do you feel about your body right now? Right? Because how you project and how you feel, what you show your relationship is to your blood, your menstruation, your cervix, your cervical mucus is going to be passed on to her. So the best thing you can do for your daughters is to learn to appreciate, love, and have a relationship with your own body and your own cycle.
Yes. But how does that, how does they react, these children that you are talking to? Because I think children or teens don't have so much guilt and shame and so much, they want to know.
Which is why I love doing it.
Yes,
because I understand before all that. And so, yeah, I love it. It's great. A lot of them leave and go, I want to be Chloe when I grow up.
Yeah, I understand that.
So, yeah, no, it's fantastic. And we talk a lot about, some of them have had their first period, some of them haven't. So we talk a lot about, like, a lot of the logistical stuff, like what are the period products that we can use, and how do you use them, and what does it look like, and put them in some red Gatorade, and right, like, what is this mucus in my underwear, and how do what does it mean, and is it normal? And my favorite topic to talk about with the young ones is the seasons of the cycle, and you know, the menstruation in winter, right? Follicular spring, ovulatory summer, luteal fall, and to just talk about how, hey, we live different lives in the winter and the summer. We eat different foods. We wear different clothing. We do different activities. It's the same thing in our cycle. We have an inner season in our cycle, and it's normal to feel differently. It's normal to crave different food. It's normal to say yes to one thing and no to another, you know, throughout our cycle, just so that they can start to normalize and appreciate how they change. How they change through their.
Oh, what a gift. What a gift. And your way of sharing it is so magical. It's so amazing, because you can feel that you're loving it, and that goes directly into them. And also that power of free from fear and guilt. It's just been felt. So such a gift for them. Do you go to school, or they come to you like you?
No, I actually do it in communities. So I'm not really like Tupperware parties. Like my mom was that mom who like hosted, had all the Tupperware parties, the candle parties or the sex toy parties. You know, she would get all the friends, and then like the facilitator would come in. So I run the period positivity workshop the same way, where a parent would invite all of their parent friends and their daughters or preteens on a Sunday afternoon in their living room. And I come in and I offer it for 3 hours. So I really love it because I teach in a community, right? I teach friends, like they all know each other already, because this is not one conversation. It's the beginning of many conversations. And so I loved for them to look around and say, these are your people, right? These are the people that are moving life at the same time you are, you know, are going to be going through similar experiences, that we have each other, so that when I leave, they still have their support system. So I love the team.
Yes, beautiful. I have one question that I forgot earlier. You talked about this cervical mucus, and if you see that in your underwears, or I think you shared somewhere that maybe if you're stressed out, or that can cause a little bit what is imbalance in that, so that mucus can be for a longer period.
Yeah, because the cervical mucus, it becomes visible when estrogen levels are high.
Okay.
And so our estrogen, think of it as like a hill. The estrogen climbs and climbs and climbs. It opens. We see the mucus. And then eventually estrogen will reach its peak and it will trigger ovulation. So ovulation only occurs when estrogen levels get high enough.
Yeah.
So what happens when we're stressed out is, and it could be a physical stress, like over exercising. It could be an emotional stress. It could be a chemical stress, like the beauty products that we're using, et cetera, et cetera. But the estrogen level will get high enough that we see the mucus, but it doesn't get high enough to cause ovulation. So then the estrogen can do this like ebbing and flowing, where the mucus comes and goes and comes and goes, but it never gets high enough to cause ovulation. So that's one way that you can understand your cycle and to learn a little bit more about yourself. Because if you're somebody who's experiencing the stop and start of cervical mucus and you're confirming ovulation at a day like later than day 23, for example, 23 days after your period, then that's a pretty good indication that you need to start thinking about some stress management coping methods. Because your body is not feeling safe or nourished enough to ovulate.
Okay. So interesting.
Your body is so wise. Your body is so wise. It will save the energy that it's required to ovulate for other processes, for other things. So if you're not nourished enough, if you don't feel safe enough, then the body will not put the energy into ovulating. It'll put the energy into something else.
Yes. And you can keep having that mucus. Yes. Such important information for everybody out there, because I think many people can be a little bit stressed, and as you say, body is wise. Yes.
Yeah, you use your cycle as a feedback tool. Like for example, over exercising is a great example of how we're putting added stress on our body. So if you start a new exercise regime and you're noticing that this mucus is stopping and starting, and that you're ovulating a lot later than you usually do, which is going to then make your period a lot later, then that's a pretty good indication that you're probably exercising too much. So then you can bring it down a little bit, maybe go, once less a week, or do less reps, or, run a little bit less, or whatever it is you're doing. And then if the ovulation returns, that it's sooner and your periods start to come more sooner and you start to see only like one wave of cervical mucus, then that's your personal feedback tool to know what it is your body needs.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's amazing. And all these bodily fluids are sacred. I have also seen how you
Put a menstrual blood face
yes,
mask.
yes, I love that. I love that so much. And to because when I started to connect to the menstrual blood that way, I haven't done a face mask, and that but I'm going to do that next time. But just starting to looking at her and feeling the taste and the yes, everything about her is so beautiful. How do you view menstrual blood? Share.
Yeah, you know, I always it wasn't something I loved, it wasn't something I hated, it was just something that happened. And then I started using a menstrual cup because I moved to Thailand and I was told that I was going to have a hard time disposing of disposable period products and that I should switch to using a reusable one like a menstrual cup. So I did, and it was great and I loved it. And then a few years later, I was living in Colombia and I actually met a man in Colombia who had asked me what I did with my menstrual blood.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's down the sink like everyone else. And
Yeah.
he was actually the person who invited me to start like treating my menstrual blood as the sacred fluid that it is.
Yes.
Right. And I remember he told me he had encouraged me to like bury it, you know, somewhere in the earth. And I laughed at him. And I'm from Canada, you know, 6, 7, 8 months of the year, my ground is covered in snow. Like I'm not going to bury, like how can I bury my blood in, you know? And so I actually started saving my blood in a jar and discovered that that was a bad idea. It started to like rot and smell bad. And I'm like, this can't be right. And so then finally, after many, many, many years and a lot of experimenting with my own, you know, my own sacred fluids, I now love to dilute the blood and put it in my plants. In the winter time, right? I have very special places to me. I actually just got married a few weeks ago, and the day before my wedding, I was bleeding, and I like blessed the place that we got married in the ravine with my menstrual blood. I use it as a mask on my face. I put it in my bathtub. I paint with it. I've even baked and drank it. So I really just encourage people to, yeah, even if it's just touching, if it's just touching and interacting or smelling your menstrual blood, then that's a great place to start, considering what period products you use. And I always like to use my blood as fresh as possible. But if I can't use it in the moment, I will just store it in the fridge. So I do recommend putting it in the fridge, just because it will go bad. It will smell there. Yeah,
I have yes. Oh, so beautiful. I think that's also a thing to normalize and to start to speak about, so we can go back to that sacred practice and to sacred, because it happens something inside of us when we keep on doing that. Yes. Yes. Oh, thank you, Chloe, for an absolutely amazing conversation. I think I can go on for hours, but I think this was enough for today. And I'm so grateful that you said yes to come here.
Your sacred yes. I love that. I feel like that's the main message from our conversation is, you know, find your sacred yes. Say yes. What are you saying yes to? And especially with regards to your relationship with your body. And I love that. Thank you so much for inviting me to come have this discussion with you. I'm leaving just as buzzed and energetic, and my cheeks are burning from smiling so much. So I really appreciate it too.
That sounds great. Is it something that you said now we have with us from this conversation, the sacred yes? Is it something more that you want to share?
Just as an invitation for people to discover their own sacred yes and what they're saying yes to when, you know, whether it's through tracking your menstrual cycle, through, saying yes to gazing upon your own body, or whether it's saying yes to a relationship with your cervix, or saying yes to ovulation, right? Quitting hormonal birth control and say yes to ovulation, to just invite people to find their sacred yes.
Yes. Yes. So for those who want to know more about you, where can they find you?
Just gotta find me by my name. So I'm Chloe Skerlak, CHLOESKERLAK. My website is chloeskerlak.com. I offer free 30-minute conversations for people who want to chat more with me about anything fertility awareness, menstrual cycle, birth control related. I love to play on Instagram. It's just at Chloe Skerlak. And yeah, so just reach out and say hi. I would love to hear from anybody.
Yes. And I'm going to put the links everywhere where this conversation is too. So thank you everybody who listened, and thank you once again, Chloe.
Thank you.
Thank you.